The stars outside the observation window looked like scattered diamonds on black cloth. Captain Park Ji-woo stood near the window with her hands behind her back. She watched the distant lights and felt the gentle hum of her ship beneath her feet. The TSS Dauntless was not a warship. It was a cargo frigate, built to carry supplies between human colonies and trading stations. But to Ji-woo, it was home. She had served on this ship for 12 years. She knew every corridor, every panel, every sound it made. When the engines ran smoothly, she could tell. When something was wrong, she felt it in her bones before any alarm went off. Today, everything seemed normal. The ship moved through the outer Verdant Corridor, a quiet trade route that few ships used anymore. It was longer than the main highways, but safer. Or so everyone believed. First Officer Kim Taiwan walked onto the bridge. He was a tall man in his 50s, with gray hair cut short and a face that rarely showed emotion. He had served in the Earth Defense Fleet for 20 years before joining the civilian merchant service. Some people found him cold. Ji-woo found him reliable. "Captain," he said with a small nod. "All systems are normal. We should reach the Galactic Exchange Hub in 14 hours. Ji-woo turned from the window. "Good. How is the crew?" "Rested, bored. The usual for a long haul." A tiny smile appeared on his lips. "Engineer Lee is complaining that the port engine is running 2% below optimal. She wants to do maintenance when we dock." Ji-woo laughed softly. Lee Yuna was their chief engineer, a young woman barely 30 years old. She treated the ship's engines like they were living things. Every small imperfection bothered her. "Tell her she can have all the time she needs at the hub. For now, 2% is acceptable." Taiwan nodded and moved to his station. The bridge was small but efficient. 6 stations surrounded a central command chair where Ji-woo usually sat. Navigation Officer Choi Min-ho monitored their course on his screens. Weapons Officer Bae Soo-jin sat nearby, though her station had been quiet for months. There was rarely need for weapons on cargo runs. Ji-woo returned to her chair and checked the time. 14 hours. She could rest soon. Then the ship shook. It was not a violent shake, but everyone on the bridge felt it. The lights flickered for half a second. Ji-woo gripped the arms of her chair and looked at Min-ho. What was that? Min-ho's fingers flew across his console. His face went pale. "Captain, we have been pulled out of faster-than-light travel. Gravity wells have activated around us." Ji-woo stood up. "Gravity wells? Show me." The main screen changed. Instead of the normal star map, it showed the Dauntless surrounded by 6 red shakes. Ships. Large ones. "Identify them," Ji-woo ordered. Soo-jin worked her console. "Valkyrie warships, Captain. 2 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and 1 command vessel." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew about the Valkyrie Dominion. They were raiders, pirates on a massive scale. They attacked ships far from help, took cargo, and captured crews. The lucky ones were sold as slaves. The unlucky ones were never seen again. Taiwan spoke first. "They set a trap. The gravity wells were hidden until we passed through." Ji-woo felt her jaw tighten. How did they know we would use this route? They must have scouts watching the corridor entrances. When they saw us enter, they prepared the ambush. A communication signal appeared on screen. Soo-jin looked at Ji-woo with worried eyes. "They are hailing us, Captain. Put it through." The screen changed again. Now it showed a creature that made several crew members step back in fear. The Valkyrie were large beings with gray-green skin, 4 arms, and faces that looked like a mix of lizard and insect. Their eyes were completely black, like pools of oil. The one on screen wore golden armor across his chest. "Over Master Groth," the symbol said. He was the commander of this hunting fleet. Groth spoke in a rough voice that the translation software converted to human words. "Human vessel. You have entered Valkyrie hunting space. Your cargo and crew now belong to the Dominion. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the immediate destruction of your ship. The message ended. The screen returned to showing the 6 enemy ships. Jiwoo looked around her bridge. She saw fear in some eyes, anger in others. Minho was gripping his console so hard his knuckles turned white. Sujin had one hand on her weapon controls, waiting. Taiwan walked closer to Jiwoo. He spoke quietly so only she could hear. "Captain, we are outgunned. If we surrender, some of us might survive." Jiwoo stared at the enemy ships on screen. 6 warships against 1 cargo frigate. Any logical calculation said they should give up. Any reasonable captain would power down and hope for mercy. But Park Jiwoo was not just any captain. She was human thought. She thought about Earth's history, about all the times her species had faced impossible odds. They had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and extinction-level asteroid impacts. They had climbed out of the mud and reached for the stars. They did not do this by surrendering when things looked bad. "No," she said. Taiwan blinked. "Captain?" I said no. "We are not surrendering." She turned to face her crew. "Everyone, listen to me. I know what you are thinking. I know the odds look terrible. But I have been in space for 20 years, and I have learned one thing about humans that other species do not understand." She paused, making sure everyone was paying attention. "We do not give up. We do not accept death quietly. When something tries to kill us, we fight back. And right now, those Valkyrie out there think they have caught easy prey. They think we are just a cargo ship full of scared merchants. They are about to learn how wrong they are." She sat back in her command chair. Her voice became calm, almost cold. "Taiwan, initiate protocol Iron Curtain. All stations, prepare for combat. Sujin, arm all weapons. Minho, calculate emergency jump coordinates in case we need to run. Yuna," she said into the ship-wide comm, "I need everything you can give me. Shields, weapons, speed. Push the engines as hard as they can go." Down in engineering, Yuna heard the order. She smiled. She had been waiting for this moment. "Understood, Captain. I will make this ship sing." On the bridge, Jiwoo opened a channel to the entire crew. 32 people on this ship. 32 humans who had families waiting for them at home. She spoke clearly. "All hands, this is the captain. We have been ambushed by Valkyrie raiders. They want our cargo and our lives. I am not willing to give them either. We are going to fight. We are going to survive. And we are going to make them regret the day they decided to attack a human ship." She closed the channel and looked at the enemy fleet on screen. "They picked the wrong species," she said. Quietly, the Dauntless began to power up its hidden weapons. The ship that had looked like harmless cargo vessel started to show its true nature. Panels slid open along the hull. Railgun barrels extended. Missile pods unlocked. The Valkyrie had no idea what was coming. Deep in the heart of the Dauntless, Yuna ran through the engineering bay like a woman possessed. Red emergency lights flashed above her head. Crew members rushed past, each one heading to their battle stations. But Yuna had only one destination in mind, the main power core. She slid under a console and began pulling cables. Her fingers moved fast, rerouting power from non-essential systems. Lights in the crew quarters went dark. The entertainment room shut down. The water recycling system dropped to minimum levels. Every bit of spare energy flowed toward 2 destinations, shields and weapons. Her assistant, a young man named Han Dongwoo, appeared beside her. "Chief, are we really doing this? Fighting 6 warships?" Yuna pulled herself out from under the console. Her face was covered in grease, but her eyes were bright with determination. What choice do we have? Let them take us as slaves? I would rather die fighting. She moved to the main engine controls. The port engine that had been running 2% below optimal was about to get pushed harder than ever before. She whispered to it like speaking to an old friend. Come on, old girl. I know I ask a lot from you, but today I need everything. She pressed buttons, adjusted dials, and watched the power readings climb. The engine responded, humming louder, stronger. On the bridge, Weapons Officer Bei Su-jing was transforming from a bored cargo ship gunner into the military soldier she had once been. Her hands moved across her console with practiced speed. She had spent 8 years in the Earth Defense Fleet before retiring to this quieter life. Part of her had missed the action. Now she had more than enough. Captain, she reported, all weapons are armed. 4 railguns online. 12 missile pods ready. Point defense systems activated. Ji-woo nodded. What about the enemy? What are they carrying? Sujin checked her scans. Their destroyers have plasma cannons, standard military grade. The cruisers carry torpedo launchers. The command ship has heavier weapons, but slower targeting. They were not expecting a fight. Navigation Officer Choi Minho interrupted. Captain, I have calculated 3 possible jump coordinates. If we can break free of the gravity wells for even a few seconds, I can get us out. Keep those coordinates ready, Ji-woo said. But we are not running yet. Not until we teach these raiders a lesson. First Officer Taiwan stood beside the captain's chair. He watched the enemy ships on screen. They had not moved yet. They were waiting, probably confused. In their experience, prey did not arm weapons. Prey surrendered. They think we are bluffing, Taiwan said. They have never seen humans fight. Ji-woo smiled coldly. Then let us educate them. Across the galaxy, humans were known as merchants, explorers, and colonizers. They had arrived on the galactic stage only 200 years ago, young compared to species that had traveled the stars for millennia. Many alien civilizations saw them as newcomers, inexperienced and soft. What they did not understand was human history. For thousands of years before reaching space, humans had fought. They fought each other over land, resources, and ideas. They fought diseases that killed millions. They fought the very planet they lived on, surviving ice ages and natural disasters. They fought asteroids that threatened extinction. And through all of it, they won. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they refused to give up. When humans finally reached the stars, they brought this survival instinct with them. Every colony was built with defense in mind. Every ship, even civilian ones, carried hidden weapons. It was paranoia, some species said. Humans called it preparation. On the Dauntless, this preparation was about to prove its worth. Junior crew member Nari rushed through the corridors carrying a toolkit. She was only 22, fresh from the academy. This was her first deep space assignment. When she had signed up for merchant duty, she imagined long, boring trips and quiet days. Now she was running toward a weapons station while enemy warships surrounded her ship. She passed by the medical bay where Dr. Kang Yoonji was preparing for casualties. The doctor was calm, laying out bandages and medical tools with steady hands. She had served on warships before. She knew what battle brought. Stay focused, Yoonji called out as Nari passed. Fear is normal. Use it to stay sharp. Nari nodded and kept running. On the enemy command ship, Overmaster Groth watched the human vessel with growing confusion. His communications officer had reported something strange. The cargo ship was powering weapons. Real weapons. That is impossible, Groth said. Scans showed it was a simple transport. His tactical officer, a younger Velthari named Rek, checked the readings again. The scans were correct at the time, Overmaster. But now I am detecting railgun signatures and missile locks. The humans had their weapons hidden. Groth's forearms tightened with anger. He had hunted prey across this sector for 30 years. He had captured hundreds of ships from dozens of species. None of them had ever truly resisted. Some begged. Some tried to run. But none fought back. What are they doing? He demanded. Unknown, Overmaster. Should we open fire? Groth considered the question. His 6 ships had more than enough power to destroy 1 cargo frigate. But something made him hesitate. There was a word that older Velthari raiders used, a warning passed down through generations. They spoke of a species from a small blue planet, a species that should never be underestimated. Humans. But Groth was proud. He had built his reputation on being fearless. He would not show weakness in front of his fleet. Fire a warning shot, he ordered. Hit their shields. Show them what happens to prey that forgets its place. The nearest destroyer aimed its plasma cannon. Blue-white energy built up at the weapon's tip. Then it fired. The plasma bolt crossed the distance between the ships in seconds. It struck the Dauntless's shields with a bright flash. The human ship shook but held firm. On the bridge, Jiwoo gripped her chair as the impact rattled through the vessel. Alarms blared briefly before being silenced. Shields at 87%, Sujin reported. Minor damage to outer hull plating. They are testing us, Taiwan observed. Trying to scare us into submission. Jiwoo stood up from her chair. She walked to the center of the bridge, standing where everyone could see her. Her crew looked at her with expectant eyes. That was their first and last free shot, she said. Her voice was steady, almost casual. Sujin, return fire. Target the ship that shot us. Aim for their weapons array. Sujin's fingers hesitated for just a moment. This was it. The point of no return. Once they fired, there would be no negotiation, no surrender. Just war. She pressed the firing control. The Dauntless's forward railgun activated with a deep thrumming sound. A tungsten slug the size of a man's arm accelerated down the magnetic barrel. It left the ship at a fraction of the speed of light, invisible to the naked eye. The Velthari destroyer never saw it coming. The slug punched through their shields like they were made of paper. It hit the plasma cannon array and kept going, tearing through the ship's interior. Atmosphere vented into space. Fires erupted in multiple compartments. The destroyer began spinning, completely disabled. On his command ship, Overmaster Groth watched in horror. 1 shot. The humans had crippled one of his destroyers with 1 shot. Impossible, he whispered. That is impossible. His tactical officer shouted updates. The destroyer is not responding. Life signs are fading. They are dead, Overmaster. They are all dead. Groth's black eyes narrowed. This was not prey. This was something else entirely. For the first time in decades, he felt something cold crawling up his spine. Fear. But it was too late to retreat now. His fleet was committed, and Groth was too proud to run from a cargo ship. All ships, he commanded, his voice harsh with rage. Attack formation. Destroy them. Destroy them all. The remaining 5 Velthari ships moved forward, weapons charging. On the Dauntless, Captain Jiwoo watched them come. She felt no fear, only a cold determination that burned in her chest. All hands, she said over the comm. This is going to get rough. But remember who we are. Remember what we are. We are human. And today, we fight. The battle had truly begun. Space exploded into chaos. 5 Velthari warships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma bolts streaked across the void, painting the darkness with deadly blue light. Torpedoes launched from the cruisers, their engines burning bright as they raced toward the lone human ship. On the Dauntless, the world became noise and motion. The ship twisted hard to starboard, as Minho executed an evasive maneuver. Crew members grabbed whatever they could find to stay standing. Alarms screamed from every corner of the vessel. Incoming torpedoes, 4 of them. Sujin shouted over the chaos. Activating point defense. Small turrets along the hull came alive. They tracked the incoming torpedoes and opened fire with rapid bursts. 2 torpedoes exploded before reaching the ship. A third was damaged and veered off course. The 4th made it through. The impact threw everyone forward. Jiwoo slammed against her chair's restraints. Sparks flew from a damaged console. Someone screamed from a lower deck. Hull breach in Cargo Bay 3, Taiwan reported, reading the damaged screens. Emergency bulkheads have shielded. Shields down to 62%. Yuna, I need more power to shields, Jiwoo ordered through the ComDot in engineering. Yuna was already on it. She crawled through a maintenance tunnel, bypassing damaged circuits with her bare hands. The heat was intense. Smoke filled the narrow space. But she kept working. I am giving you everything I have, Captain. But if we take another direct hit, we might lose main power. Understood. Just keep us flying. On the bridge, Sujin was firing continuously. The railguns sent slug after slug toward the enemy ships. Most of the shots missed as the Valkyrie vessels maneuvered, but enough hit to cause damage. One cruiser lost its torpedo launcher. Another had a hole ripped through its rear section, but 5 against 1 was still terrible odds. They are surrounding us, Minho warned. Coming at us from 3 angles. Jiwoo studied the tactical display. The Valkyrie were using standard pack tactics, trying to trap their prey in a crossfire. It was effective against ships that fought conventionally, but humans had never fought conventionally. Minho, prepare a microjump. Coordinates right behind the enemy flagship. Minho's eyes went wide. Captain, a microjump inside a gravity well is extremely dangerous. The calculations are nearly impossible. We could end up inside a star or scattered across light years. Can you do it or not? Minho looked at his console. His heart was pounding. A microjump was a short-range faster-than-light hop, usually used only in emergencies. Doing one inside enemy gravity wells was almost suicide. Almost. I can do it, he said. But it will only give us a few seconds before they adjust. A few seconds is all I need. Sujin, the moment we complete the jump, fire everything we have at their flagship's engine section. Missiles, railguns, all of it. Sujin nodded grimly. Ready when you are, Captain. On the Valkyrie command ship, Overmaster Groth watched the battle with growing frustration. His fleet was winning, but slowly. The human ship was faster than expected, more agile than any cargo vessel had a right to be. And those railguns were tearing through his ship's armor like claws through flesh. Focus fire on their engines, he ordered. Stop them from moving. His remaining destroyer and 2 cruisers adjusted their aim. Plasma fire concentrated on the Dauntless's rear section. The human ship's shields flared bright under the assault. Then the human ship vanished. Groth blinked his black eyes. One moment the prey was there, surrounded and taking damage. The next moment, it was gone. Where are they? He demanded. Find them now. His tactical officer frantically scanned the area. I cannot locate. Wait. Behind us. They are directly behind us. Groth spun around to look at the rear sensors. The human ship had appeared less than a kilometer behind his flagship. Impossibly close. Suicidally close. And all its weapons were pointed directly at his engine section. Evasive maneuvers, Groth screamed. Now! But his flagship was large and slow. It could not turn fast enough. On the Dauntless, Sujin pressed the firing controls with a grim smile. Fire. 4 railgun slugs launched simultaneously. 8 missiles followed. All of them aimed at the same target, the flagship's main engine core. The first two slugs shattered the flagship's rear shields. The third punched through the armor plating. The fourth hit the engine core directly. The explosion was massive. A white ball of energy erupted from the back of the Valkyrie command ship. The vessel shook violently, systems failing across every deck. Emergency lights replaced normal illumination. Power died in section after section. On his bridge, Overmaster Groth was thrown from his command seat. He crashed against a wall, one of his forearms bending at an unnatural angle. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself to stand. "Status," he gasped out. His tactical officer was bleeding from a head wound. "Engines are gone, Overmaster. Weapons offline. Life support is failing on decks 3 through 7. We are crippled." Groth looked at the screen, which still flickered with power. The human ship was moving away from his dead flagship, turning to face the remaining enemies. 3 Valkyrie ships remained operational. 2 cruisers and 1 destroyer. They had witnessed what happened to their command ship. Fear spread through their crews like a disease. "Retreat," one of the cruiser captains transmitted. "Overmaster, we should retreat while we can." Groth wanted to order them to continue fighting. His pride demanded it. But as he watched the human ship effortlessly destroy another cruiser with coordinated railgun fire, he realized the truth. They had lost. "All ships," he said slowly, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. "Retreat. Disengage and retreat." The remaining Valkyrie ships tried to run. They turned away from the battle, pushing their engines to maximum power. But the gravity wells were still active, trapping them just as they had trapped the humans. On the Dauntless, Minho tracked the fleeing ships. "They cannot jump out. The gravity wells are still blocking FTL travel." Jiwoo sat back in her chair. Her uniform was covered in dust and small burns from sparking consoles. Sweat ran down her face. But her eyes were calm. "Disable their FTL drives," she ordered. "I want them stuck here." Sujin targeted the fleeing ships with precision strikes. She aimed only at their faster-than-light engines, leaving their main propulsion intact. One by one, the Valkyrie vessels lost their ability to escape down in engineering. Yuna finally climbed out of the maintenance tunnel. Her hands were burned, her face was black with smoke, but she was laughing. They had done it. A cargo ship had defeated a raiding fleet. Dongwu found her sitting against the wall, still laughing. "Chief, are you okay?" "I am wonderful," she said. The ship held together. She held together. On the bridge, Taiwan approached Captain Jiwoo. The battle was over. The enemy flagship drifted dead in space. 2 enemy cruisers and 1 destroyer sat motionless, unable to flee. The bodies of their comrades floated in the wreckage of destroyed ships. "Captain," Taiwan said, "what are your orders?" Jiwoo looked at the defeated fleet. She could destroy them easily now. It would be simple. Press a button and end their lives, just as they had planned to end hers. But that was not the human way. Killing beaten enemies served no purpose. What served purpose was sending a message. "Open a channel to all Valkyrie ships," she said. "I want to speak to their overmaster. Channel open." Jiwoo stood, straightening her uniform despite the damage. She faced the main screen as the image of Overmaster Groth appeared. He looked terrible. Injured, defeated, and for the first time in his long life, truly afraid. "Overmaster Groth," Jiwoo said. "This is Captain Park Jiwoo of the TSS Dauntless. You ambushed my ship. You threatened my crew. You tried to take what was not yours." She paused, letting the words settle. "Now you know what happens when you attack humans." Groth stared at her through the screen. His black eyes held no more arrogance, only the broken look of a predator who had discovered he was actually prey. "What will you do with us?" he asked. Jiwoo smiled. It was not a kind smile. I am going to let you live. And then I am going to give you a message to deliver. The Valkyrie flagship drifted silently in the cold vacuum of space. Its engines were dead. Its weapons were offline. Emergency power barely kept the life support running. Inside, the surviving crew huddled in darkness, waiting to learn their fate. On the Dauntless, Captain Jiwoo prepared her boarding team. First Officer Taiwan led the group, selecting 6 of their best fighters. They suited up in armored spacesuits and carried heavy pulse rifles. This was not going to be a friendly visit. Remember, Jiwoo told them before they left, "We are not here to kill unless necessary. We are here to deliver a message. But if they resist, do not hesitate." Taiwan nodded. "Understood, Captain." The boarding shuttle launched from the Dauntless and crossed a short distance to the crippled flagship. It attached to an emergency airlock with a metallic clang. Taiwan's team cut through the lock and entered the enemy vessel. Inside, the Valkyrie ship smelled of burned circuits and fear. Emergency lights cast everything in dim red. Bodies lay in corridors, victims of the explosive decompression that had killed many during the battle. The surviving crew had gathered on the upper decks, where life support still functioned. Taiwan's team moved efficiently through the wreckage. They encountered a few armed Valkyrie guards, but these enemies had no fight left in them. They dropped their weapons and stepped aside, too shocked to resist. The bridge doors opened after Taiwan's team overrode the lock. Inside, they found Overmaster Groth sitting in his command chair, surrounded by the bodies of dead officers. His golden armor was dented and stained. One of his 4 arms hung uselessly at his side, broken during the battle. Blood the color of dark rust ran down his face. Taiwan approached him slowly. The human's face showed no emotion, but his eyes missed nothing. "Overmaster Groth," he said, "your ship is captured. Your fleet is destroyed or disabled. You have no options remaining." Groth looked up at the human standing before him. For 30 years, he had been the hunter. He had taken what he wanted from weaker species. He had built his reputation on fear and cruelty. Now he sat in his own ruined ship, surrounded by dead crew members, facing a species he had completely underestimated. "Kill me then," Groth said. His voice was tired, empty of the arrogance it had carried earlier. "That is what hunters do to defeated prey." Taiwan shook his head. "We are not hunters, Overmaster, and you are not prey. You are a messenger." Groth's black eyes showed confusion. "Messenger? I do not understand." "You will." 2 hours later, the work was complete. The Dauntless crew had salvaged useful materials from the destroyed Valkyrie ships. They had repaired their own damage as best they could in the field, and they had prepared Overmaster Groth for his new mission. The Valkyrie commander sat alone in a small escape pod. It had minimal life support, barely enough to keep him alive for the journey to the nearest Valkyrie outpost. His crew, those who had survived, were placed in other pods. They would drift together through space, rescued eventually by their own people. Before launching the pods, Captain Jiwoo made a personal visit to Groth's capsule. She stood outside the small window, looking in at the defeated Overmaster. "Listen carefully," she said. "I am going to tell you exactly what you will say when you return to your dominion. You will share this message with every ship captain, every colony leader, and every council member who will listen." Groth said nothing, just watched her with those dark, empty eyes. Jiwoo spoke slowly and clearly. "You will tell them that the TSS Dauntless was attacked in the outer Verdun corridor. 6 Valkyrie warships tried to capture a human cargo vessel, and that cargo vessel destroyed half your fleet and crippled the rest." She stepped closer to the window. "You will tell them that humans are not prey. We are not victims. We are not the soft newcomers you thought we were. We come from a planet that tried to kill us for millions of years, and we survived. We fought ice ages. We fought diseases that wiped out billions. We fought each other in wars that covered our entire world. And after all of that, we reached the stars." Her voice grew harder, colder. "You will tell them that every human ship, every human colony, every human being carries this survival instinct. We do not surrender. We do not accept death quietly. When something threatens us, we fight back with everything we have." She placed her hand on the window. "And you will tell them this. If the Velthari Dominion ever attacks human ships or colonies again, we will not just fight back. We will come for you. We will find your homeworld. We will find your families. And we will burn everything you have ever built until your species understands one simple truth." Jiawu's eyes bore into Groth's. "We are not the prey. We are the predators you should have feared from the beginning." Groth stared at her for a long moment. In his entire life, he had never felt smaller. This human female, this captain of a cargo ship, had shattered his fleet and his pride. And now she was sending him home to spread fear among his own people. "Why?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why not just kill me? It would be simpler." Jiwu shook her head. "Because dead enemies cannot deliver messages. Living enemies can spread fear. And fear, Overmaster, is more powerful than any weapon I carry on my ship." She stepped back from the window. "Your pod has enough supplies to reach Velthari space in 12 days. I suggest you use that time to memorize what I have told you. Because when you arrive home, your Dominion will ask what happened here. And you will tell them the truth." She turned away, then paused. "One more thing. If I ever see a Velthari ship near human territory again, I will assume it is an act of war. And I will respond accordingly. Make sure your people understand that." The escape pods launched minutes later. Groth watched through his tiny window as the Dauntless grew smaller in the distance. The human ship turned, its engines glowing bright, and jumped away into faster-than-light travel. He was alone now. Alone with his shame, his injuries, and the message he had been forced to carry. Back on the Dauntless, the crew gathered in the main mess hall. Dr. Yunji had treated the wounded. Engineer Yuna had patched the worst of the damage. The ship was limping, but it was moving. Captain Jiwoo stood before her crew. They looked tired, battered, and bruised. But they also looked proud. "I want to thank all of you," she said. "Today, we faced impossible odds. We were ambushed by a superior force. By every reasonable calculation, we should be dead or in chains right now." She looked around the room, meeting eyes with each crew member. "But we are not dead. We are not slaves. We are alive because we refuse to accept any other outcome. We are alive because we remembered who we are." Taiwan stepped forward. "Captain, the ship will need extensive repairs when we reach the hub. Some systems are barely functional. I know, but we will reach the hub. That is what matters." Young Nari raised her hand nervously. "Captain, do you think the Velthari will really listen? Will they stop attacking human ships?" Jiwoo considered the question. "I do not know. Some species only understand force. We showed them force today. Whether they learn from it is up to them." She paused. "But here is what I do know. Word will spread. Other species will hear about what happened here. They will hear that a human cargo ship destroyed a Velthari raiding fleet. They will hear that we do not surrender, we do not give up, and we fight back with fire." Chief Engineer Yuna spoke up from the back of the room. "And if they do not learn? If they attack us again?" Jiwoo smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then we teach them again, as many times as it takes, until the entire galaxy understands that attacking humans is the worst decision any species can make." The crew nodded. Some smiled. Some laughed. The tension of battle was fading, replaced by the simple relief of survival. Minho checked his console. "Captain, we are back on course. 14 hours to the Galactic Exchange Hub." Jiwoo nodded. "Good. Everyone get some rest. You have earned it." As the crew dispersed, Taiwan remained behind. He stood beside Jiwoo, looking out the observation window at the stars. "Do you think they will come back for revenge?" he asked. "Maybe. Probably, even. The Velthari are a proud species. They will not forget this humiliation easily. And if they do come back," Jiwoo turned to face him, "then we will be ready. We always are. That is what being human means." Taiwan nodded slowly. He had served with many captains over the years, but none quite like Park Jiwoo, none who understood so clearly what humanity was capable of. "Get some rest, Captain," he said. "I will watch the bridge." "Thank you, Taiwan, for everything today." She walked toward her quarters, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Behind her, the Dauntless flew on through the stars, scarred but unbroken, just like humanity itself. 12 days after the battle in the outer Verdant Corridor, a single escape pod drifted into Velthari space. Patrol ships intercepted it and brought the survivor aboard. When they saw who it was, they could not believe their eyes. Overmaster Groth, the legendary raider, looked like a broken creature. His golden armor was dented and dark with dried blood. One arm was still useless despite emergency treatment. His black eyes, once filled with confidence and cruelty, now held only emptiness. The patrol officers took him to the nearest outpost. From there, news spread quickly. Groth had lost his entire fleet. 6 warships destroyed or crippled by a single cargo vessel. A human cargo vessel. At first, no one believed it. The Velthari Dominion had hunted prey across the stars for centuries. They had built their empire on taking what they wanted from weaker species. The idea that a simple merchant ship could defeat their warships seemed impossible. But Groth told his story. He told it to the outpost commander. He told it to the regional governor. He told it to the High Council of the Dominion itself. And every time, his message was the same: do not attack the humans. They are not prey. They are something else entirely. The High Council listened in silence as Groth described the battle. How the human ship had revealed hidden weapons. How it had executed maneuvers that should have been impossible. How its captain had crippled his flagship with ruthless precision and then delivered a warning that still echoed in his mind. One counselor, an elderly Velthari named Thrak, spoke up. "This is just one ship, one battle. It means nothing. We have hundreds of warships. We could crush their colonies in weeks." Groth shook his head slowly. "You do not understand. I thought the same thing before the battle. I had 6 warships against their 1. I had them surrounded. I had every advantage. And they destroyed us." He leaned forward, his voice growing urgent. "The human captain said something to me. She said that if we attack them again, they will come for our homeworld. They will come for our families. They will burn everything we have built." Thrak laughed. "Threats from a defeated captain. We should not." "She was not defeated," Groth interrupted. "I was. And I am telling you, as someone who has hunted prey across this galaxy for 30 years, those creatures are not prey. They are predators wearing merchant clothing." The council chamber fell silent. Over the following weeks, the story of the Dauntless spread beyond Velthari space. Traders carried it to distant ports. Diplomats whispered about it in meeting rooms. News networks across the galaxy began reporting on the incident. At the Galactic Exchange Hub, the Dauntless had arrived for repairs. Captain Jiwoo and her crew found themselves suddenly famous. Other species stared at them in the corridors. Journalists requested interviews. Representatives from a dozen worlds asked to meet with the captain, who had humiliated the Velthari Dominion, Jiwoo accepted few of these requests. She was not interested in fame. She was interested in getting her ship repaired and her crew home safely. But she understood that what had happened in the Outer Verdant Corridor was bigger than her. It was a message to the entire galaxy. One evening, while the ship was still in dock, an alien journalist managed to corner Chief Engineer Yuna in a maintenance shop. The journalist was a Telkai, a species known for their 3 eyes and insatiable curiosity. "Engineer Lee," the journalist said, "I would like to understand something. How did a cargo ship defeat 6 warships? What is the human secret?" Yuna wiped grease from her hands and considered the question. She thought about the battle, about crawling through burning maintenance tunnels, about pushing the engines harder than they were ever meant to go. "There is no secret," she finally said. "We are just stubborn." The journalist blinked all 3 eyes. "Stubborn? That is your explanation?" Yuna nodded. "Humans have been dying since we first crawled out of the mud on our planet. The universe has tried to kill us in every way you can imagine. Ice, fire, disease, famine, war, asteroids. And every time we survived. Not because we were the strongest or the smartest, but because we refused to die." She paused, looking at the journalist directly. "When those Velthari ships surrounded us, most species would have surrendered. They would have calculated the odds and accepted defeat. But humans do not think that way. We look at impossible odds, and we think maybe we can win anyway. And sometimes, just sometimes, we are right." The journalist recorded every word. The interview spread across dozens of worlds. Back on Earth, the news reached the government and military leadership. Official commendations were prepared for Captain Jiwoo and her crew. But more importantly, the military began quietly reviewing its doctrine. If a cargo ship could defeat a raiding fleet, what could dedicated warships accomplish? The answer, they decided, was quite a lot. In the months that followed, human shipping lanes became noticeably safer. Pirate attacks dropped by more than half. Raiding species that had once targeted human vessels now gave them wide berths. The Velthari Dominion officially withdrew from human trade routes, claiming they had no interest in that sector. Anyway, no one believed them, of course. Everyone knew the real reason. First Officer Taiwan retired from active service a year after the battle. He settled on a quiet colony world where he could fish and watch the stars. But he kept a small holographic image on his desk, the Dauntless flying away from the wreckage of the Velthari fleet. When visitors asked about it, he would smile and say, "That was the day the galaxy learned what humans are made of." Navigation Officer Minho transferred to a faster ship, one that could use his exceptional skills more effectively. He became famous for his impossible maneuvers, but he always credited his time on the Dauntless for teaching him that impossible was just a word. Weapons Officer Sujin returned to the Earth Defense Fleet. She trained new officers and taught them about human combat doctrine. Her favorite lesson was about the Outer Verdant Corridor. "Never assume you are outgunned," she would tell her students. "Assume you are angry enough to win." Dr. Yoonji wrote a medical paper about treating stress injuries in combat situations. She dedicated it to the crew of the Dauntless, who had given her plenty of material to work with. Young Nari stayed with the merchant service. She became an officer herself, eventually commanding her own ship. She carried the lessons of that first battle throughout her career, always ready for anything, never accepting defeat. And Captain Park Ji-woo? She retired eventually, after 20 more years of service. She never commanded another battle like the one in the Outer Verdant Corridor. She never needed to. Her reputation was enough. Pirates and raiders saw her name on a ship's registry and quietly chose to look elsewhere. On her final day of service, she stood on the bridge of her last ship, a newer vessel, but never quite as special as the Dauntless. Her crew gathered around her for the traditional farewell. What advice would you give to the next generation? One young officer asked. Jiwoo thought for a long moment. She thought about the battle. She thought about the fear she had hidden from her crew. She thought about the message she had given over Master Groth. Remember where we came from, she said finally. We are a species that climbed out of caves and reached the stars. We survived everything the universe threw at us. Ice ages, plagues, world wars, extinction-level events. We are still here because we never gave up. She looked at the young faces around her. Other species out there will underestimate you. They will think humans are soft. They will think we are easy prey. Your job is to prove them wrong. Not through cruelty, not through aggression, but through determination. Show them that humans never stop fighting for their future. She smiled, the same cold smile she had shown over Master Groth all those years ago. And if they still do not understand, if they still try to hurt us, then show them fire. Show them what happens when you corner a species that has spent its entire existence learning how to survive. The young officers nodded solemnly. They understood. Every human understood, deep in their bones. It was the inheritance of their species, carved into their very nature by millions of years of struggle. In the years that followed, a saying spread across the galaxy. It was whispered in spaceports and war rooms, in trading stations and diplomatic halls. Species that had never heard of Earth or humanity learned it quickly. Whatever you do, wherever you go, whatever you think you know about the galaxy and its dangers, remember one simple rule. Do not ambush a human ship, because humans do not surrender. Humans do not accept defeat. Humans fight back with fire. The story of the Dauntless became legend, told and retold across 100 worlds. And every time a predatory species looked at a human vessel and considered attacking, they remembered that legend. Most of them chose to look elsewhere. The smart ones, anyway.